at one fundamental level, I think it's a problem that people are unwilling to talk about, because it tugs at something that is like innate to men. Like we know, based upon science now, that the man's brain is visually stimulated. There's a great book called Wired for Intimacy by William Struthers. He does an amazing job of explaining the differences between women's desires and females' desires. There's another great book called A Billion Wicked Thoughts, written by Google engineers. So if you want to understand what men and women are attracted to and the differences between them, those are two great books. But the male brain is visually stimulated. This is why women wear makeup, right? This is why they wear red high heels. This is why a lot of things. And I think the fact that it tugs at the heart as well, lust is on every man's heart, that plus you tie in the sexuality piece, that's what layers it with like the taboo subject where people just aren't willing to talk about it. And then you still get the people that's like, oh, pornography is just something that's been around since the beginning of time. And that is true. Like you can look back in caves and you see cave drawings of, erotica images. What we're dealing with today, internet streaming pornography, is a drug that we do not understand the true impact of what is happening to men, to boys, and to society at large. Because in reality, it's been here for a blink of time, right? 20 years in the vast scope of human existence. I try to look at the drug of internet streaming pornography exactly that. And there's some language, and there's some neuroscience here that I picked up. I've had, you mentioned a couple of people that we've had on the podcast. Been very fortunate and blessed, with the podcast interview, some of the world's leading neuroscientists, some of the world's, leading psychologists in and around this topic. In the neuroscience field, which is the study of our brain neuroplasticity and how it changes through experience, internet streaming pornography is what is recognized as a supernormal stimulus, meaning the way that your brain responds to it is at a supernormal level. I can't walk outside and look at something and create the same response in my brain that I would get from pornography. Now, with a supernormal stimulus, is what this does is it begins to create new baselines of normal for you. So this is not exactly how it works, but I think a scale of 1 to 10 is a great example to explain the effect. So let's say that when you and I are conversing, because we're constantly releasing dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical. It's known as a neuromodulator, and it's tied to our motivation. And what it's there for is when we're in the pursuit of our goals, it's dripped out to give us a sense of joy and accomplishment, to keep us moving and progressing towards those goals. So that's what dopamine is there for. But it works on a cycle. So dopamine is tied to motivation, but it also is tied to a pain, pleasure cycle. So spikes in dopamine create the sense of pleasure. Dips or deficiency in protein create a sensation of pain. So we understand tied to motivation, moving us forward, operates in a cycle. We have a baseline where we're always releasing it. A supernormal stimulus, though, let's say it's going to take us to a level 10. So first, second time I consume pornography, my brain now knows if I want dopamine, I can get it at a level 10 just by consuming pornography. Maybe if I go to the gym because it's tied to my goals, it's tied to the goals of having a six pack or maybe losing some weight or maybe putting on some muscles, maybe I get a 5. If I go to the gym, maybe if I do a deep session in work, because I'm building a business, maybe I'm writing some sales copy, maybe I'm launching a new product, maybe I'll get a 7. 5 for working out, 7 for deep work because it's tied maybe to a deeper purpose in me, a bigger meaning in life. But pornography, super normal, level 10. You see where this can begin to create a problem, right? Is if I know that I'm going to get a 10, why would I go to the gym? If I know that I can get a level 10, why would I sit down and write sales copy? I'm just going to go to porn. But the second problem is because it works in a cycle, every spike is going to be followed by a dip. And the bigger the spike creates the bigger the dip. So if the spike is pleasure, the dip is going to be tied to pain. So we're going to give ourselves a 10 hit of pleasure. Then at some point in the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to experience a sensation of pain. Now, not physical pain where my knee hurts, my elbow hurts. It's like, no, the pain is going to be associated with lack of motivation, feelings of depression, social anxiety, all the things that are men that are struggling with porn. This is their life. This is their reality because they've created a cycle in their life where they only go to pornography to get the hit of pleasure. So every part of their pain is at such a deep level. So at a very fundamental level, internet pornography hijacks your dopamine receptors. It hijacks your motivation, and it creates the only element for you to get motivation, joy, pleasure is in the pursuit of more pornography. Because once again, there's that motivation component. It's not at the end, it's not at the release, because that's the minute that the pain is going to dip in. Because especially if you're trying to work through it, now you're going to bring in guilt, shame, all these like low level consciousness levels. So yeah, I think at the highest level, the drug of internet streaming pornography just hijacks our brain in a way that we're just not able to fully understand yet.